Hey, good morning. It's Dr. Liz Jenkins with drlizcoaching.com. How are you doing? In my world, it's Friday. It's trash day, so you may hear our puppies barking. And for many folks, the weekend is supposed to be one of leisure and one of feeling connected, having fun. And so often I hear either usually Monday, about how derailed the weekend went. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that within the relationship, without even realizing it perhaps, people are keeping score. They're keeping track. They're noting how much they do and how much their partner doesn't do. And I just want to tell you right from the get go, yes, relationships, we are in there, partnerships, we do need to share, we do need to, lighten the load or reach out and take care of each other, and we do need to show up and take responsibility for our part of it. But if you're finding yourself mentally or actually literally keeping track of how much you do during the course of the day, during the course of the week, and sit back and actually watch to see what they do or don't do. Or if you're in the spot where you feel like you're constantly or consistently needing to nag them through or have fights about what they aren't doing that you thought they were supposed to do, it's a huge red flag, guys. It means that the health, the connection, the communication between the two of you, the expectations you have of one another, maybe without even realizing it, but the expectations are off. Now, it doesn't mean it's fatal and doesn't mean that, oh, we got to, break up or separate or anything like that, but it does mean it's time to do some quick, deep work to understand expectations, to understand um, your perspective, to get deeper about where you're focused on. And then if you're focused on what they aren't doing, then we're really not connected and focused on the right areas of why we're even in a relationship or a marriage. Okay, that's just honest truth. So let me just tell you a couple examples real quick of folks that were keeping score, keeping track without even realizing it, because it comes out kind of soft and not necessarily not necessarily articulated that I'm really mad. I am doing XYZ and you aren't doing XYZ, or you were supposed to do this and you aren't doing this. Let's get to the deeper part of it. So I have one couple, they work together, and he takes off early in the morning to go to their office and opens up and meets and greets staff. And she rolls in a little bit later because she buttons down the house and makes sure kids are off where they need to go. So each one is occupied, right? Each one is occupied doing part of the necessary things that make the business of their life, their marriage, their family, and their work on track. So she does roll in an hour late, sometimes an hour and a half. If you get a kid where they need to be, or they've forgotten their stuff and you have to go back home for it, or one of the animals needs to get dropped off at the vets, those things get added into her load before she shows up at their work. Okay? And so what happens during the course of the day? They're both down in the trenches working, experiencing similar stresses. But in his head, he has already decided that he's working harder than her because he started an hour early at work. So then when she's done at a decent time, that both of them tend to want to break away and go home. And so let's say he starts at 7 and she gets in there at 9, okay? Or she gets in there at 8:30, okay? It's done. It's time to get home. Kids have already gotten home, gotten off the bus. They're there. Life is ready to pick up. So she's leaving, 4:35 to roll in to start the next half of her homework, which is busing kids around to any kind of activities, making sure there's dinners, just the usual stuff. Pretty kind of traditional split of things. He rolls in. He's tired. Got it. He does his things. Maybe sometimes he relaxes, maybe does some yard work or follows up with some customers, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, when everybody's tired, and that's the worst time, when everybody's tired, he starts grumping about how little she does and how much he does, and why is she so tired that she's fallen asleep on the couch and doesn't want to come back into the bedroom and be do anything but fall asleep. Okay, so right there we have a mental tracking that is creating distances instead of bringing them together. Because in the reality, both of them work very, very hard for what seems like a common goal: to love each other, to love their children, to provide for the children, to keep the roof over their head, to keep the business going, to please their customers, to keep the thing called the family on track. Neither one of them shirked their responsibilities. It just looked different from what they were doing. And so what I'd like for each of you to do, right, if you're keeping score, keeping track, and I'll share some more other examples of how that might show up subtly and more blatantly. But if you're finding yourself rolling into Friday and maybe feeling a little resentful, a little tired, a little weary, I want you to stop back to what's my perspective? What am I focusing on? What are my expectations of myself? What are my expectations of my sweetheart? What would I like to see them do? What is reasonable? Get in touch with that resentment. And so just start writing it down. Just start listing it. It's the last thing you want to do is share these hurts, wounds, things at the end of a long day, or even when that nice little lull, when you're both relaxing on the couch or sitting outside watching the kids play in the swing set or taking a bike ride. The last thing you want to do is destroy that nice moment by throwing a zinger out there when they aren't prepared and you might not have the right setting or the right attention. Right? So let's first get in touch with how you feel about evenness or not evenness. If you're catching yourself being guilty of keeping score, if you are pretty sure that they're guilty of keeping score, okay, well, tuck it all down, breathe, set it aside, and see if you can shift your perspective instead, just for a short period of time. I'm focusing on what they're doing to contribute. That might be different than yours, might be a different decision path, and what you're doing to contribute to the marriage or the relationship, which might be different from what they might ideally want. It's okay. But we just want to start diluting it or offsetting the balance sheet, so to speak, with the things that are right. Right? DM me. I have a lot more information and tips to share with you. If you would like, join me inside my weekend reconnect. It is self-paced for a weekend getaway, or we help you break into really nice little date nights. So instead of keeping score and keeping track and ambushing somebody, you'll have ways to have good connecting communication and build that love and that friendship back in. And the scores won't matter. It'll be a tie. Okay. Take care. Talk to you soon. Join me inside my weekend reconnect. DM me and I'll send you more info. Bye.